Okay, on today's video we are going to cover custom intent segments, specifically ones that are auto-created, or what Google calls as auto-created custom intent segments. I'm going to talk about what they are and why they're actually profitable. 50 to 300% more profitable than regular custom intent segments, which is linked to display advertising through Google Ads or Google Display Network. Okay, I'm going to tell you more about just boring content about what a auto-created intent segment is. I'm going to tell you how to use them, how much you're going to be able to make, and basically the tips and tricks to be able to make sure you can do that for your business, and examples of how you can actually execute it. Okay, like I do on all my other videos, I don't just give you textbook definitions here. I tell you what to expect and how to do it and how to walk away from the video with actionable advice you can make money with today or starting today. Okay, so anyway, with all that prelude out of the way, I'm going to get into it. What are the, just like the title of the video describes, what are these custom intent segments? Auto-created custom intent segments, and why they're profitable. So what they are, okay, so going at a high level here, starting out, Google Display Network. So in Google Ads, you can do search engine advertising on Google itself, google.com. You can also, just to keep this simple, advertise out of Google, which Google has partnerships with millions of websites out there through their Google AdSense program, where you can advertise on those sites. Pretty much any site you see a banner ad on, like the skyscraper ads or rectangular ads, that you're going to be able to advertise on those sites with Google Display Network. Okay, so different technique to make money with those ads, and there's several main ways that you can target these banner ads. It could be a text ad as well. That's as well on the other sites, by the way. But there's several ways that to be able to make money. You can target those ads, because you have to see, always in PPC, you have to have the targeting right, the ad copy right, the landing page right. And as far as the targeting goes, of the main targeting options there, which I won't get into the rest, there's custom intent segments. And so, with that, basically what that is you create a custom segment which is an audience or group of people that you can target. Once you do that, there'll be more auto-created segments that show up that Google recommends to you that you can also advertise on, that they basically recommend to you that's similar to the ones that you have already. So in other words, you come up with your own, and when I say come up with your own, it could be if they are a high school graduate and they're interested in playing guitar and they've been to my competitor site and they do all three of those things together, I want to target them. Or it could be they do this or they do this, or this. So there's different combinations there. Okay, but what you're doing is Google just started doing this somewhat recently, where you could. With Google Display Network, there's always a way to make money. It's just a matter of figuring out, mostly, assuming you have an ad and a landing page that works and an offer that works, the targeting that's going to fit. Because if you get the audience drilled down enough to where you have a high enough percentage of buyers in that targeted list you're going to make money. Because then the cost of what you're paying for that ad space from Google is going to be worth it. Because a lot of people think that you're paying per click, and that cost per click you're paying for that banner ad is the same no matter what you do. No. The higher the click-through rate on your display ad, like it is on Google Search or Google Search Engine Advertising, the lower cost per click you're going to pay. So the goal with the targeting absolutely is narrowing down the targeting to where you have as many people that can possibly buy, or likely to buy, or statistically likely to buy, as possible in that pool, and no more. And then once you've done that, then your ad should be able to make enough conversion rate and conversion per time this ad shows up to be profitable and pay for the cost of the ads in the first place, and the ad space to have your actual ad on there in the first place. So with these custom intent audience segments, you're trying to figure out what's the combination. What are the things that they all have in common of your current customers, basically, or what you think your potential new customers will have. If they did it in sequence, that's basically going to statistically increase the likelihood that they're going to buy so much that, respectively, if I could just get in front of them, even if I'm paying 10 cents every time, it's still going to be worth it for me. There's enough people that are going to click through and buy that I can afford that ad space. So, and by the way, with that, generally speaking, if you don't know what that is, you can go and take your customer list to a data expansion company, is what it's called, and they'll tell you what all the traits are of your past customers if you have any already. And so if you have 5,000 customers, they'll tell you, okay, yeah, these customers, what they have in common is they play guitar, da 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 da. And then obviously, for what works for any business out there is if they've been to your competitor's site, they're probably in market for what you have, and if they have that, and they live in a wealth pocket in the U.S., which means they have more income, and they have those two things together, they're likely enough to buy at that point that I can afford the ad space. But you get the point. I won't go into any further on that. So now you know why you use custom intent segments, and then once you set those up, the auto intent segments in the targeting menu just start to show up automatically. So you're not going to see them when you're new in advertising and Google ads. But the more you advertise, the more you will see they show up. And you specifically won't have to have these custom intent audience set up for them to show up. They will technically show up even if you don't have your own custom intent segment set up yourself. So I'll get into that in a moment. But basically, based upon the custom intent segments that you set up, okay, these custom auto-created custom intent segments, generally speaking now, will make 50 to 300% more money for the same ad spend than the custom intent segments that you set up, no matter how So basically, however efficient your whatever your combination of things that you want people to do to have your ad show up for them for, whatever it is, from what Google will have as a new auto-created custom intent segment that's based upon the initial custom intent audience that you set up, it'll work 50 to 300% better, respectively, as I've found consistently on the many times that I've done this in the past. And so if you're not profitable enough with your display advertising doing custom intent audiences, just know the auto-created custom intent audience that will follow at some point, whether it's 3 months, 6 months, 12 months, it will work better automatically, basically, virtually guaranteed or every time. Lower cost per lead or higher ROI, however you want to look at it. So, with all that said, generally speaking with PPC, people always want to do everything. And really what you need to do when you start out with a finite amount or almost so much money starting out that you can afford to invest in online advertising / PPC, is you're going to figure out what's the best platform to spend it on. I usually start out on Google 90% of the time, as I mentioned before on my videos. Within that, it's generally Google search first, not display advertising, unless sometimes 10% of the time the Google search is too competitive. I'm going against billion-dollar companies. We're selling life insurance. We can't make this work, whatever, because we're going against companies who can afford to make no money just to be there, that kind of thing. So we'll run, display advertising. But respectively, I'll normally run the search ads, okay? In the process of running the search ads, we'll find customers. We'll use that customer data to hopefully propagate some auto-created custom intent set, display audience segments to advertise to, because they'll look at the customers we have coming through and they'll create some for us that if we target those, generally those will work pretty good, or probably work pretty good. Not every time, but mostly. So we'll take all the low-hanging fruit on the Google search ads, and then we'll move to Google display once we're starting to get to the point where if we raise the spend or we do anything else, the cost per lead goes up so much that we're past the threshold of what we need for to make our money back after our expenses. Okay, so you run the search ads, hopefully long enough to where we're training this Google Ads system enough to where when we run the Google Display Network campaigns, we have these auto-created custom intent segments already showing up. So we don't have to just rely on custom intent segments that we are going to put together for ourselves at the time. There's already these auto-created ones we can exclusively target. So, but that all said, generally speaking then, what I'm going to recommend to you, so first of all, if you have past customers, you're going to upload your customer list to Google directly, so that can be created as an audience right off the bat. Okay? That said, you're going to create several, a number, at minimum of 4 display audiences. Going to be custom audiences that you're going to use. So when you create these 4 audiences, these audiences are going to be able to set you up with the auto-created custom intent segments that you want, that are the real money makers when you're trying to run Google Display Networks, that'll work better than any of your default targeting options, that even a custom created targeting option that Google gives you to run your ads on for your company. So it's kind of a process or a means to an end. Of these 4 here, the first one that you'll set up that generally always works is your competitors. This is a secret of the business. Here's a $1 million idea here for you, for just all in itself. You go ahead and you make a list of all your direct competitors. Write down their trade names, their product names, their business names, their legal names, their domain names. Put them into a custom intent audience. Save it. That basically gets you every single person who searches for or goes to your competitors' sites to be able to have your ad show up for them. So that right there is going to be the second most profitable thing, past these auto-created custom intent segments that are going to come later once we've ran our ads for a while with this already set up, or we've had enough time, just to keep it simple, once we've ran the initial display ads, which are not going to have auto-created custom intent segments show up for us yet, to be able to get us there most of the time. Second is keywords. So when you run your search campaigns, you take the same keywords you have, and you're going to create a custom intent audience with the keywords. Just dump them all in there. You're going to do it for every product and every service you have. If you have 2 campaigns that are for the same product, take both the campaigns and their keywords, and then put the keywords from both of those campaigns into one custom intent audience, and then save it. And label it like keywords dash products so you keep track of it, that kind of thing. So that's the second one. Third, remarketing. You're going to set up several remarketing audiences that are going to spring off these auto-created custom intent segments, of which I recommend you do 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, 180 days. And going one step further here again, if you have different products and services, you're going to want to set up 30, 60, 90, 180 for each product and service that you have. But don't worry about that, basically speaking, if you don't plan on having more than 1,000 customers a month, because you probably won't spring off, or at least for the purposes of getting these auto-created custom intent segments to spring off these, these auto-created custom intent segments for each individual remarketing campaign for each product. I still recommend, by the way, just as a side note, if you're doing remarketing, you should create a remarketing audience for each product or service you have, so you can customize the ads and then where you're going to take them back to when they click on the ads. But that's just a whole side note. Fourth one here is purchaser. So I talked about before, you should create an audience, take all your customers, upload them to Google, and then you'll label the audience purchasers, and you're going to create that. And if you don't have an e-commerce site, it's so worth it to do. You got to be able to figure out how to get your offline sales data, or if your sale is more than 90 days out, typically, you got to get your lead score. Put that into, it's a process called offline conversion tracking. I have a video about that. I have a very amazing blog post about how to set this up on my site at GarrettTPPC.com. So you create that, and so basically when somebody turns into a qualified lead, if you have sales that occur too much after 90 days typically, then you're going to have a qualified lead would be to take the place of purchasers, or if you have it, preferably lead that turns into a sale. And so basically it'll be just like a purchase from an e-commerce product, but it'll just be an offline purchase, if you get my point there. So you'll have that, and again, you'll do this by product and service as well. So you need a lot of data to be able to have a audience that will spring off auto-created custom intent segments for purchasers of each product and purchasers of each service. Generally speaking, again, unless you have like, even with this, if you don't have like 10,000 sales a month almost, you can just do it, for the overall, not for each product and service, okay? At least, again, for the auto-created custom intent segments, which this video is about. So once you do all that, okay, so basically A and B here, the competitor's audience and the keyword audiences, the custom intent audience segments that you set up, those will generally not spring off these auto-created custom intent segments, but these two will get you enough sales, all right, if the search campaigns you don't have are big enough to get auto-created custom intent segments that spring off of C and D, the remarketing and purchasers. And what you're going to have once you get far enough, which, by the way, if you're just starting out today and you have high ambitions, you're going to eventually want to get to display advertising and get every customer you can in your market or client. When you set up your search campaigns or you're just getting started, go ahead and set up these audiences now. Why? Because by the time you get a year into it or 2 years into it, when you have to start going to display advertising to expand further, you've already got these auto-created custom intent segments showing up under the display targeting settings there in your account. And you'll actually see it. It'll say, if your custom intent audience for remarketing 30 days, if you named it remarketing 30 days, it'll say similar to remarketing 30 days, or similar to purchasers, or similar to purchasers of product A, similar to purchasers of product B or service B. You get my point. So again, if you set this up before you run your search campaigns, maybe they're there already. If not, you're going to set them up and you're going to wait for 6, 12, 18, 24 months, and they'll pop up if you are short on money. Or you can, in the meantime, do what I told you, which generally, at least the competitors one, which is the second most profitable thing I mentioned you could do, is start running display advertising against that competitor's audience. Figure out, of course, if your ads and landing page and your offer is on point, and make what you can from that. And then, all of us check once a month. All of a sudden, now our auto-created custom intent audience which is going to be similar to our remarketing or similar to our purchasers, then it's there, and we can start advertising to that too, which again, it'll be 50 to 300% more profitable already than, for sure, these keyword custom intent audiences I told you to set up, but probably similar to, or a lot similar to, it'll be a little bit better generally than the cost per lead on these competitors, but competitors is generally profitable, and it'll be a little bit more profitable than competitors, but then a lot more scale then, okay? Because it's going to use machine learning to figure out what's similar to the purchasers, and so you can get a lot more out of that than somebody who's just typed in the competitor name, so on and so forth. So you'll run all these auto-created custom intent segments that spin off of remarketing and purchaser audiences and take advantage of it as much as you can. Now, you will also get the other, as I touched on briefly before, auto-created custom intent segments than just the similar to type. And what will happen is it'll just say, it might say that the actual auto-created custom intent audience there that shows up just says a competitor name on it. It might say something that sounds like your product or something that sounds like your service. And then I recommend you run those too, because the algorithm that Google has basically came up with that on their own. You're using their AI system to figure out, because they're constantly looking at who's converting, You got to have conversion tracking hooked up to your account to be able to see who's converting, because that's where that is. This is how this is all powered, right? Which, of course, it could pull it from a customer list that you simply uploaded with no ads. It could figure that out on its own. Usually not. But if it came up, up with its own custom intent, auto-suggested, auto-created custom intent segments, then I recommend you run it. But generally speaking, it won't work nearly as good as the similar to remarketing, similar to purchasers. Those will work about 2 to 3 times as good almost. So it's a little bit better than running a default one that you create your own, but not that much better, and nowhere near as the similar to remarketing or similar to purchasers. As a quick note about the similar to remarketing list, it'll depend on your market. Usually though, just to let you know, 30 days is usually the one that converts the best, then 60, then 90, then 180. You would think perhaps when I was getting started and I was anticipating that the 180-day one, similar to 180 days, would be the best because it has more data. No, because unless you have really low traffic, right? The people that are similar to people who have been searching and in market most recently are going to be the ones that are more purchasing obviously more frequently. They're more likely to be still hot leads, and therefore their treats are different than somebody who did it 6 months ago, and the algorithm gets confused at that point. So, and that's why I say set it up separately, because maybe 30 days will work, 60 days will work if you bid almost as much as 30, but not quite. 90 days will still technically work if you bid a lot less, and 180 days may not work at all. You have to figure out with your tracking what converts, and then you'll do a bid adjustment on each one of these based upon what value it brings, so you can get the maximum value out of this as you can. Same thing, by the way, applies with these keyword audiences, the competitors. They're all going to convert a little bit differently, and you're going to adjust your bidding. So you're going to use manual bidding, which is what I always use, and then bid a different amount. Usually on a 90-day basis, I'll come in, look at the conversions, see what's converting what, or go up or down based upon how well that audience is converting. Okay, so that's that. Now, how do you know that you even have a shot? Because it takes a while to have things optimized, and you can't expect it to work right away. A lot of times it has to run for 3, 6, 12 months before you get some good traction because of the Google system. They also do some optimization on their side, more than what the levers they provide you to optimize with. How do you know that your offer and your landing page are good so you don't throw a bunch of money away and then figure out, oh, this isn't going to work, I have to revise my landing page? If you got a really good ad, you should be able to get a 1% click-through on your display advertising, okay? Now that sounds ridiculously high to some people, I know this, but I can tell you I get this all the time, or very close to it, because I have a system for writing the ad, which I'm going to give you here. And so with that, going back to what I was saying before, how much you pay per click directly relates to and tells us how much we're going to have to, what our click-through rate was. Or another way to say it is the higher the click-through rate, the lower the cost per click. The lower the click-through rate, the higher the cost per click. So, and it's pretty much directly proportional. If you get a 1% click-through rate, like what you should be gunning for then, if you know that you have a good ad and it's targeted halfway decently, and just basically doing an average job targeting it, your ad, you are shooting for an ad that'll get you a 1% click-through rate, because that'll get you a 10% cost per click. Whereas if you get a 0.5% click-through rate, you get 50 cents a click now. And if you got a 0.1% click-through rate, which most people, the average is about 0.1, 0.2% after you factor out remarketing, okay, which is not what this is, then you're paying $1 a click, okay? So really that, with a tenfold difference of what you could be paying for the same exact visitors here, can be the make or break if your campaign works. So I always try to explain this when I'm talking about Google Display Network. Same thing with Facebook, actually. The relevance score, which a lot of it has to do with the click-through rate, has to do with how much you're paying per click, and that makes or breaks a lot of campaigns. So anyway, with all that said, you should run an ad, and within 30 days you should know that ad's good enough so you don't waste your time, basically. And so what I do, the reason why I can get results so consistently is because I use a common formula that copywriters use, professional marketing, writing writers, if you want to just call it that, if you don't know what a copywriter is. Marketing copywriter, people who get paid really big bucks, have systems for being able to develop good words that sell. For an ad, and for a lot of people, that what they're using is an AIDA model: attention, interest, desire, action. And it has to go in that order. So when somebody sees your ad, they should be going through this little model based upon you writing the ad to comply with this model, because this is what user psychology is usually like, and you're tapping into that because you know how people think ahead of time, and you're not leaving it up to chance. So, but what does that actually look like in reality? So I got an example of an ad here that got a 1% plus or minus, real close to that click-through rate. Click-through rate varies a little bit based upon your audience segment, but it's way more predicated on you following a ad system that works, okay? And of course, if you have a crap offer that nobody actually needs the product or service or wants it, that's not going to work. But you could take a boring product or service, change what you're offering. You could take a static product or service, in other words, make the ad, upgrade the ad, and you could get something that will be profitable, whereas somebody else couldn't get it to work because their ad wasn't good enough. Just want you to know how much this matters. So anyway, AIDA, if you want to use this model, the first part of the AIDA is A is for attention. Hey, you have to get their attention, stop and look at it. So you can't shout. So generally what I'll do is whatever it is that we're offering goes right there in the first part of the ad. This was built into a banner ad here. So, and if we know they were in market for a expert witness, which is somebody who testifies at court to be able to win at trial, to back up something that a truth or a false statement, whether or not that's accurate or not. If you're suing for medical malpractice, you want a doctor, which would be a expert witness that would say what the other doctor did was wrong, typically, because they're the only ones that would really know to that level whether or not this is accurate or not, okay? Not the only way to do it, but you get the idea what an expert witness is now. So what did I say? Expert witness finder, which the service provides like a start to finish process where, kind of like a marketing agency, you go to them and you're trying a case. They're going to help you find not just an expert witness, but the perfect one by consulting you which one's the best, and then having already relationship with all the right people. They pre-vet, and how that should tie into the rest of what you're doing. So kind of like a full service thing. Expert witness finder. So if I'm in market for an expert witness, maybe I haven't found quite what I want yet. So this flags you down right away. Attention, interest, guaranteed placement in any niche. So they don't have to pay until they place you. So another way to just say it, which a lot of people don't have the cojones to do it, but it's true. Guaranteed placement in any niche. So if I'm thinking, and I haven't found one yet, it's because I don't have an expert witness that's not quite what that's an expert in the exact thing that I'm looking for. And so you're telling me right away, if I just call you, you are going to be able to give me exactly what I want. You can either be better, cheaper, faster, pretty much. And so part of the formula interest, you got to be able to say, what are you, cheaper, better, faster? Which one of those are you? You can't just say, red shirts, get your red shirts here. Even if that person was looking for red shirts, that's not going to get you a click-through rate approaching 1% to get your cost per click down to a dime. That's going to probably get your ads to work. And Google prices these ads to market, so if the clicks were worth more, they would charge more. They know how much they should be charging, and they kind of charge in the middle, what most people can afford. So if you get a higher than average click-through rate, now you're getting more value out of what Google knows the value of those clicks are, that's how you win at PPC. Doesn't matter, if it's Google Display Network or something else, but this is just in general what you need to do. You got to be willing to know how to do it better and willing to do more or both. Generally speaking, you don't have to be a rocket scientist. If you just follow the simple information that's out there like that's on my channel and what I'm giving you here, and you actually get off your butt and do it, you'll be in that top 20% who makes money every time. So anyway, interest. Part of the interest was guaranteed placement in any niche, only one call away. So basically, we have what you want guaranteed. You just have to call us, and anytime that people have to, they're wondering something, you want to extinguish that in your advertising. So I wonder how, if I call them, I'm going to get it right away. Well, we're telling them, and you know this by doing market research and or talking to your salespeople and finding out deep down, based upon that user's profile and psychology, what they actually want and why they want it. And try to put that in the I part of the formula of the ad. But it goes in this order, and not randomly switching stuff around. D goes here, A, no, A, I, D, A. Expert witness finder, guaranteed placement in any niche, only one call away. Now we get to the desired part. D, first placement free in March. So the desire, which is another way I like to say scarcity and scarcity. What am I thinking here? Urgency. Sorry, I drew a blank. Urgency. You're building urgency. Why do it now versus later? And why should I do it? Maybe there is somebody else out there that actually does kind of what you're doing. So maybe I should search. But wait, you're telling me that you're doing something that's only going to be good right now? Well, I have to call now then. So makes a regular ad that might get a 0.3% click-through rate now gets 0.8% click-through rate just because you put in something there that's going to give them an incentive to call now, not later, and tell them why. In March, if you want to get it a little bit better, we could have put in March for first placement free, or before that I should say, St. Patrick's Day, which is in March, St. Patrick's Day special, get first placement free in March. So they know you're serious. You really do mean this month. They're not making it up, basically. You add more specifics, people think you're more truthful if you use more specifics. This is the case in any ad writing you do. And then the AID, then we get to the last A, action, which is just a call to action. Call now, buy now, whatever. Call now. Okay, you don't have to get fancy there, but that formula works. If you could do something like this, you should be able to get a 1% click-through rate in your market. And of course, you got to take people to usually a reasonably long sales page to make display advertising work. What works on Google search, where they're already in market and ready to buy now, is a little different, or a lot different, than somebody who basically had noticed your ad while doing something else. Maybe they're doing research on what you buy, maybe not. Probably not, because a lot of what I just mentioned here is based upon not what they're doing now, but what they did recently. To capture their attention and to get them back in sales mode, in research mode right then and there. Okay, so some people will respond right away without a lot of info needed, and if the offer is good enough, more so, but respectively, I have to provide some more copy there that goes into detail more so to eliminate some of the obscurity that's still left about what this offer is and why it matters and why it matters to them and why they should want it. And then you're going to get their lead or get them to call or whatever then. So anyway, I just wanted to throw that in as far as this video so you understand how to run a display advertising campaign that will work, and you'll actually be able to take advantage of these auto-created custom intent audience segments that'll pop up. And how you're going to be able to get there, of course, like I said, need sales, you need clicks to be able to have them pop up. Where the real money comes in is these auto-created ones. But in the meantime, what's the second most profitable thing that you can do? And before you need it, set them up right away, like I said. So when you eventually get to display advertising, maybe you just go straight to the auto-created audience, custom intent audience segments. That'll work right away without having to go through any period where you get less than ideal returns, but you get the best ones right away, as I was talking about. ones that are 50 to 300% the ROI than what a custom audience that you set up, which was just based upon your search keywords or whatever, or another pre-populated audience that Google has in their display audience settings. If you like this video, I have a ton of other videos just like this on other PPC money making strategies. You can check this channel out, and I recommend you find something that's for sure for you. Try for more so what you're trying to do right now, and certainly should be able to make some money from what you find there when you're browsing around. I have a blog at guaranteedppc.com/blog with step-by-step instructions on how to build campaigns that are guaranteed to work, and which I've built over the last 15 years and perfected. Maybe you would prefer a little bit more help with your campaigns. I have it there. You could potentially use that as well. Apart from that all, if you have any questions, comments, anything that you thought I should have talked about on these auto-populated, auto-created, custom intent segments, audiences that will show up in your Google display account and wondering what they are and how to use them, leave me a comment down below. I get back to every single person who leaves me a question or comment on this channel within a day or two. Well, good luck to you in your display advertising and using your auto-created segments. Hopefully you got some. If not, explain how you get them and where and how to expect them, how good they work when you eventually get lucky enough to get those to show up in your Google Ads account.